Ubisoft is continuing to drop exciting new info about Assassin's Creed Mirage pretty much every day at the moment, so I'm going to break down all the new info for you over the last 2 weeks that I think you'd like to know, so you're fully up to date with what's going on with this game. And let's start with some general overview info, just in case you missed it, and so we're all on the same page, because Assassin's Creed Mirage will be releasing on Thursday, October the 5th, instead of the following week, which was originally planned on the 12th. And the main reason for that is because the game in itself has gone gold, as officially announced by Ubisoft, which, if you didn't know what that means, it's a gaming industry phrase or moniker which refers to Gold Master, which is when the game enters a specific stage of development that means it's in a pretty good condition with minimal bugs and is ready for public release. Now, of course, that doesn't mean it's perfect, but it's in solid condition for day one, enough for Ubisoft to feel confident enough to bring the release date forward by one whole week, which I can't actually remember another game doing that, so they must feel pretty good about it, which is encouraging. And it also gives the game a little bit more breathing room against Spider-Man 2, which releases on October the 20th, which is 2 weeks later. We also recently picked up confirmation from Stefan Boudon, the creative director on Mirage, that there will be no DLCs, expansions, or post-launch content, which we've kind of, I guess we've already known for a while, but it's now been officially stated. So that's it. Don't expect anything else in terms of mainstream AC content until AC Japan, which I reckon will release in their usual AAA game window, which is around this time next year. Now, we also picked up a new trailer for Mirage at Gamescom this week, which did contain some further gameplay clips, but the majority was more of what we've already seen so far in previous showcase. And I'm not complaining at all, by the way, that's what the trailer was. But there was a couple highlights that I do want to bring your attention to. Specifically, the in-game cinematics and general graphics seem to have been improved since the first trailer that we saw several months ago, with Basim's face as an example here sticking out as a major upscale, which I also think is positive to see, in my opinion. We also got a further glimpse of the Order of the Ancients masks, which, if you played Valhalla recently, will be a very familiar antagonist for you to dismantle in this upcoming game. In fact, Jean-Luc Sala, the art director on Mirage, stated that these masks have a connection to AC Origins, which suggests a further, more in-depth presence of the Order of the Ancients during this Babylonian era, with a lot more in-game items reminding us of AC Origins. An example of that being the Astroblade, which was an instrument used by scholars to make astronomical measurements to aid in mapping and navigation by utilizing the stars and planets relative to the local time. That then allowed them to calculate the latitude. So, as you can see here, expect more Origin assets like this to appear throughout Mirage. But arguably, even more interestingly, we got our first teaser clip of a new NPC, that being a flamethrower wielding enemy, which looks very similar to the Pyro Bandit that we've already seen in AC Valhalla, which, if you haven't played that game, it did huge amounts of damage. And I reckon this enemy in Mirage does have some historical context to it, because I believe it may be a Nafata thrower, which was a genuine Arabic military unit in the 9th century who wielded crude mineral oil that he then popped in a clay lamp object to then use as a flamethrower against enemies, as you can see here. And I do think he will be very challenging to defeat, considering Basim's low tolerance for damage taking in this game comparatively to Eivor in Valhalla, as mentioned by the devs. So we'll need to time our attacks carefully. Now, I want to move on here and break down our first look at the in-game map, which was teased in a recent developer diary about Baghdad, the city itself, and I'll of course break down those highlights of that video for you next. But let's first zoom in and take a look at these map icons together and talk about what they mean, because the question mark here looks like a untracked quest objective or marker that hasn't yet been selected in the menu, just going on what Valhalla is. And of course, Mirage is built on the same engine as Valhalla, so that kind of makes sense here. And if we just move across to the left hand side, we have our eagle wings, which clearly means our viewpoints or synchronization points to me, where we can open up more of the map in terms of visibility after our leap of faith off it. And south of that, we have our AC emblem, and presumably following the same iconography of Valhalla again, it will identify one of the three, as confirmed by the dev team, assassin bureaus in the districts inside Baghdad, where we'll be able to conduct main quests and side content via the Bureau Contract Board, which we've again already been teased with. And finally, we have a circular dot on this map northwest from the Bureau, which says to me this is a undiscovered location which has significance in the game. So it's kind of encouraging us to go and check it out. And I reckon this may be historical locations, bandit camps and fortresses, just to name but a few options there. That said, this wasn't the only map teased in the game so far. We've also picked up an additional map clip with even more info on it. So let's break that down together as well. And let's start with this musical quaver note, which I believe is our musicians that we can hire as a faction and then subsequently utilize to distract the guards, as confirmed by the devs a few months ago, with the icon to the right of that being two people, what it looks like to me. So perhaps another faction here, maybe the Baghdad merchants that we can then use to blend into places or areas undetected that we're not supposed to be, as also teased in some game dev footage, if I just zoom in here, from that trailer several weeks ago. And if we move across to the left, above the musicians here, we also have what looks like a wanted poster torn in half to me. Well, it kind of looks like that to me. So either it is a wanted poster, which of course it very well could be that we have to pull down to reduce our wanted level, or it could be a herald where we pay him to lower our wanted level as well, just like in the Ezio games. And speaking of which, let's zoom back out and then zoom into this icon, which may be familiar to some of you old school fans, as it's a needle and thread. That, of course, being a tailor, where we'll be able to dye our assassins' robes different colors and perhaps purchase different design styles as well. And to the left of that, we've got ourselves a standard bag icon denoting the general trader, where we can sell all of our vendorable items for coins to spend on stuff that we really kind of want in game. Now, let's zoom into our gold chest here, which reprises itself again from Valhalla, clearly identifying a gear chest. And if we just zoom back out again, but then just shoot across to the top of the district on the map here, if my editing skills are up to scratch, we have another icon that you will be familiar with if you've recently played Valhalla again. And I reckon this is our historical site point of interest, where we'll be able to learn about notable locations in Baghdad within the time period, as a discovery tour style mechanic is in Mirage from launch. Now, north of that site, we also have two swords crossing one another, and I think that may either be mercenaries that we can hire, or perhaps a blacksmith where we can upgrade our weapons, those being the sword and dagger. Additionally, I'm going to zoom out again here for you, and I want to bring your attention to this map panel, because the suggested rank gauge here suggests which district we should enter depending upon our assassin ranking game and subsequent progression in the game at that particular time. So if you're a initiate and you're just starting Mirage, and then you hover your icon over a district and it says that the recommended level is Master Assassin, it's going to be really challenging for you. That's not to say that you can't go there and explore it, but you're just going to have a really hard time. But more interestingly, the mysterious shards panel here, I reckon, may be the currency that we need to collect to obtain a Isu related armor set of some kind, just like in AC Origins. But instead of the silica that we'll be collecting as a currency, we then have to collect shards here in Mirage. Bit of a wild guess from me there, but we'll just have to wait and see what they're there for. The devs have obviously popped them in the game, so I think they're quite important. Now, as for the recent Baghdad developer diary, we picked up some really interesting insight regarding the historical relevance of the city in the time of the 9th century, as it is the most richest and most advanced city in the world at the time of Mirage, where it has been crafted with historians and local experts to ensure its historical accuracy. In fact, the team have added in the adhan in-game, and I do apologize for my rogue pronunciation there, which is a Muslim call to prayer, which you will hear as you travel around Baghdad, as well as undertaking short narrative side quests called the Tales of Baghdad that will touch on key cultural subjects that were important in the time period, like astronomy and literature. We also now have all 4 districts confirmed, with more of a steer on what they're responsible for in the game world, with Kark being the market district of the game, with large crowds and trade goods arriving from Constantinople, China and Spain. We then have the industrial district of Harbiya, which is a dense, grimy part of the city where slavers, orphans and thugs try to make a living. On top of that, we have the center of Baghdad called the Round City, which was also known as the City of Peace, where gardens, fountains and the impressive Caliphal Palace is situated. And finally, Abyssinia, the cultural hub of Baghdad, where we'll find the famous House of Wisdom, where scholars, philosophers, scientists, and astronomers gather to share knowledge. So a wide variety inside the city here that is historically accurate and interesting from a gameplay point of view as our assassin playground. Now, since we're on the topic of developers, we picked up a developer Q&A on Reddit a few weeks ago where the community asked Stefan Boudon, Jean-Luc Sala, and Sarah Bellew, the narrative director, some questions about the game. And I'm just going to breeze through a few standout highlights for you here, just in case you missed them, starting with some clarification on skills, because they are dependent upon each other, which means that if we want to unlock the most impactful and important skills at the end of each of the 3 trees, we'll then need to unlock all of the skills that come before them. So it's a mandatory skill progression system, so to speak. They also confirmed, just like AC Valhalla, there will be unique world events and, excitingly for me, treasure maps. As if you didn't know, my first set of videos on YouTube were treasure map guides for Valhalla, which I actually started on YouTube with a couple years ago, which I had no idea what I was doing at the time. So if you want to go treasure hunting here in Mirage, don't worry, I'm going to have you covered at launch. It's going to be one of those things that I do for every Assassin's game that comes after this one. We also have confirmation that we won't be able to toggle Bassam's hood on or off during gameplay, which means it will remain up at all times apart from quest cutscenes, as well as the armor and outfit slots in the infantry menu being locked, also meaning you can't unequip it and then run around Baghdad in your underpants. But you can override their visual look with the transmog costume option to change your robe appearance without impacting its stats. Now, over on the official Ubisoft Instagram account, the team have been releasing a couple new teaser gameplay clips of the tools that we'll be able to utilize in Mirage. And let's go through each one now swiftly so you get a better visual understanding of what each one does in game. Firstly, we of course have the torch, which reprises itself again from previous AC games, which is a simple source of light and fire to illuminate our way and find hidden doorways or chests in Mirage. Secondly, we have the blow dart, which is capable of putting targets to sleep or can be altered to apply poison to it, or alternatively cause the enemy to go into Hulk mode and start smashing other enemies in the vicinity. We of course have already seen this in previous AC games. It's good fun to use. Thirdly, we have the smoke bomb, which releases a thick cloud of smoke so we can return to stealth, as you can see here if I just pause and zoom in, which is a nice homage to the older games as well, with that lingering last scene Animus animation there. And fourthly, we have the noisemaker, which is a small explosive tool that draws attention away from us in game, which can also be engineered into a weapon to do damage like a kind of grenade back in the bureau. And for our fifth tool, we have the trap device, which is a non-lethal proximity explosive capable of knocking down enemies temporarily and can also be made more deadly with poison. And for our final and sixth tool, it's the throwing knife, which allows us to assassinate enemies from a distance and is incredibly satisfying to use in the older AC games, albeit a little bit overpowered, but it is really cool to see it here in a kind of closer gameplay action view here. Now, another teaser that we picked up recently, which you may have missed as it was posted on the official Assassin's Creed Twitter account, is the Mirage loading screen, which shows Bassam walking around boundless dunes in the distance with several what looks to be phantom ghosts surrounding him. And if we compare that to Valhalla's loading screen, we had Eivor walking around the northern lights, and I reckon these phantoms or memory ghosts are actually Odin or versions of him tormenting Loki's consciousness inside Bassam's head, of course, and perhaps they become clearer or more defined the more we play through the game. But I think that theory is perfect for another video, because we also picked up a quick tip about pickpocketing on this menu screen, where it identifies pickpocketing specifically as a mini game and not just a quick money earner like in Valhalla, where if we put the target to sleep first using the blow dart, we'll then be able to skip this mini game and rummage around in the enemy's pockets without any fuss. So I'm interested to see what they've actually implemented here, instead of just walking up to a target and holding a button while standing next to them as we've become accustomed to in recent AC games. Now, if you didn't know, AC Valhalla has gone on to become Ubisoft's most successful game yet, being the first of their AC games to gross over $1 billion, with a significant portion of that revenue attributed to in-game store purchases and cosmetic items. Now, over a year ago, the official Assassin's Creed Twitter account stated that there will be no gambling or loot boxes in Mirage. In fact, Ubi Waldo on the official AC Discord page stated that the game does not include a subscription model or content which would be associated with in-game advertising beyond the traditional in-game news offerings. But he did go on to say that there will be some optional cosmetic bundles directly purchasable on first-party stores at launch, which lines up with this recent picture posted by an anonymous insider online of potentially one of those cosmetic armor sets called the Fire Demon Pack. So even though this game has no season pass, DLC, XP, increased bonuses, and money packs that you can purchase on the store, do expect a few optional cosmetic armor sets from launch and perhaps a few more to be released into the store during the Christmas period for an extra bit of cash for Ubisoft, because they know people are going to pull the trigger on them. Now, as this is the only big AC offering until Japan next year, Ubisoft are starting to ramp up the marketing and partnership collaborations with the game, such as this OO haptic system suit built specifically for Mirage, where you will actually feel the sword or dagger hitting you when fighting against enemies in-game. And I'm really quite tempted to buy this just to wear on a stream or something and take an absolute beating in Baghdad. So do let me know if you'd be keen for that. I think it could be a lot of fun. But that aside, for you collectors out there, Pure Arts have announced a $900 Bassam statue with 250 exclusive editions that come with a Mirage-centric ring with its dimensions rolling in at 9 kilograms and around 70 centimeters or 31 inches in height. So it's a decent size, to be fair. I personally think it looks fantastic, but it's also nearly $1,000. So fair play to you if you decide to pull the trigger on this. Ubisoft have also partnered with Kidrobot to make a Bassam plushie for $17 if you're into that kind of thing. And they're releasing a new podcast called the Baghdad Soundwalk every Monday on all streaming services, which guides you through the history, intrigue, and drama of medieval Baghdad, which gives you a little bit more context before you play the game. So perhaps worth a listen to if you're partial to a podcast. Now, I've got another Mirage video here for you that I think you'll really enjoy, where I break down in detail all the gameplay that we've been shown so far and what it all means. So give that a click and hopefully I'll see you there in a second. I think the video actually should be on my face right now. Big thanks to Nika for helping me make this video and to the Reloads Club for your monthly support. I really appreciate it. Cheers for stopping by. I hope the video was informative and enjoyable. And as usual, coffee is on me.